John, what are you wearing today? It smells great.
You can smell me.
Mm.
Oh, great. So I had to restart my computer because of all the tech problems, which means that all of my extensions that mute tabs weren't on. So I got to hear you say that weird thing twice, actually. So that was fun. Brett, what is making you most excited for this coming weekend?
The fact that it's not a work day.
That's gonna be good. But you do a Sunday stream, right?
Yeah, I do. I'm gonna buy some caulk. I'm gonna caulk things later. I'm gonna be calling.
Are you really gonna do that? Or what are you caulking?
Bathtub.
Yeah. Does it badly need a caulking?
John, please.
I put the L in it specifically. I recently did lines of that substance on the outside of my shed, actually.
So can someone please edit that into a cocaine thing? I did lines of that substance. John, you're obviously on drugs. I can smell it.
Okay, well, look, when you say it, that's fine. But they totally coincidentally are speaking about the same thing in the chat. And when your wife writes it, it's pretty clear which word she's using. There's no ambiguity there. Anyway, Brett, what are the chances that you will watch The Wheel of Time?
High.
High
chances. The chances are high.
Oh, I thought you
like
were saying
the rent.
High. Yes. Okay. Well, I hope that. Look, I don't like that people are setting it up to. It's either going to be as good as Game of Thrones or it's awful. And I also don't like that this is an opportunity for everyone to be like, yeah, but Game of Thrones season 8 sucked. But I am very excited. I've been reading these books for longer than a lot of our audience has been alive. So I'm very excited that it's finally a show.
The Time Wheel. I love shows about wheels. That's why I'm watching it. That's all I'm there for. If there aren't that many wheels in this show, John,
there's a good amount, I think.
I'm gonna delete it.
Well, they have the budget. Like I think they were spending $10 million an episode, so you can afford several wheels at that point.
Oh my
God. Isn't that crazy? Like that's like a movie budget. I mean, granted, it's 45 minutes. It's almost like a movie.
What kills me, John, is not thinking to myself, oh, like the inability for me to go like, oh, at least they're selling this many tickets.
Yeah. I mean, presumably, I have no idea how they estimate if it's worth it to them or whatever, but whatever. It is on Amazon Prime, so that's not ideal. But what are you gonna do? Like, what are you gonna do? Okay, so we're having an issue with B-roll. Okay, don't wait. Okay, so don't wait on it. I don't know. I think a lot of people's favorite part of the show is when I wait for a really long, awkward period of time, unblinking, unthinking. Yeah. I think people like that. I don't want to deprive them of that, especially on a Friday. Anyway,
Sylvie, do I have parfait in my beard?
A little bit
on the parfait right now.
Oh, Joby. Why don't you mind me, Joby?
Okay, what? If
no, my God, Joby, what are you doing in the ocean, Joby?
He licked Sophie. Bring the puppy to the studio, damn it.
Oh, look how you mind her. Look how you mind the puppy.
He's a very hyperactive. You are gonna bring him to the studio.
Okay.
Or you're fired.
Did you turn off my Wi-Fi this morning so that I would be forced to bring the puppy to the studio? It was almost there.
John's a hacker.
Please bring him. I
will. All right, about 30 seconds.
Is that Margot? Is that what the name of the dog is? You said him. Margot's a boy.
Oh, by the way, Brett, I didn't put quite as much in the rundown, so my hope is that we won't be as rushed. But good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Damage Report. Hopefully, a very standard stock, run-of-the-mill, functioning episode of The Damage Report. That's what we're shooting for today. Okay, we don't need to set the expectations any higher than that, considering what's been going on this week. And with that bar being buried deep below the ground, I now give you Brett Erlich. Brett, how's it going?
Oh my gosh, I hear he's good. Yes. His mom is always saying nice things to me.
Can I just mention, so we're having some sort of audio desync issue on Twitch.
It'll be fine. It'll catch up.
Didn't hit the bar. Anyway, someone will figure it out. I want to briefly say, Brett, just because you did one of your voices right there, I was watching a YouTube video and there's a gentleman who does the videos. And at the end of his little thing, it's these scripted videos they make, he did a thing that so could have been you. And I don't know if I should send it to you. I feel like you're gonna be mad whether it's good or not.
Yeah, no one likes that.
No one likes that. I get
likes.
that enough, but
I learned, I once told one friend that another guy reminded me of him, and then he met that guy, and he was just so mad at me. No one's like perfect, because either the answer is no, how dare you think that horrible person is like me, or yes, now you're just replacing me, and I don't have a lane.
Well, I don't think you guys are a replacement unless you start doing board game reviews. But anyway, okay, I will not burden you with that. But anyway,
you think I'm like someone who would do board game reviews, John?
Yeah, I think that's high praise, actually. Okay, but with that, we're gonna get all of our continuing tech problems finished. What I can say is that while the sound of my voice on my mouth might not match up, the news will match up with your expectations. For something interesting to talk about on a Friday, we've got the passage of Build Back Better. We've got the speech that would not end. We've got a whole bunch of other stuff too. A lot of awful people, and we're gonna close out the episode, by the way, with our garbage people. Brett and I have, I know this week, who's to say we have very different garbage people. I will just say that.
John's changed. John's come around on my years long well-held position.
No, don't.
Vindication, I know what you're gonna say. Is mine.
Maybe.
All of me.
With that,
was smarter than all of you.
Those buttons probably won't work. I mean, why would they? But for now, we're gonna pretend that they will as we launch into our first story with this video.
We're going to the Senate. We're going to the Senate. Possibly via the parliamentarian.
We're gonna build back better.
Gonna build back better.
Yeah.
So there you have Representative Ilhan Omar and the bill from those old videos from the 50s or whatever, celebrating the passage of Build Back Better just in the House. Let's be clear, just in the House. But it did pass this morning, Brett Erlich. What do you think?
I always have that question whenever I see someone in the news. And when a lot of people see on the right, when they see Ilhan Omar, they've been asking, oh, is she a terrorist? They've been completely terrible about that. That's the one burning question they have. It is horrible, it is ignorant, it is hateful. For me, the question I have about Ilhan Omar and everyone that I ever see on camera is when they do a little dance, what is that little dance? And Ilhan starts out as like an actual dance, like the twist, but she is obviously like has been around kids, specifically babies, and that's the case when their palms open up. Her palms open up, and she's like, if you're happy and you know it, she's about to clap her hands. So I'm glad to see that. That was a delightful little dance from Representative Ilhan Omar.
The bill. How did you like the Bills dancing?
The Bills dancing was he's working with what he's got. And as you said, he's old. He's from the Schoolhouse Rock era, and that allows us to transition to the process of when a bill becomes a law. Now it goes from the House, where they have okayed it, to the Senate, where Joe Biden has promised in the past, and that promise has been relayed to us by our champions that make us hopeful, if ever, that it will be delivered in the Senate. Now, will it be delivered in the way that it was passed by the House, where it's been brought down trillions upon trillions of dollars over a decade to something much smaller, like literally 1/6 of what we thought it was, maybe 1/4? I don't know what happens then, but so this is a moment where we can just, if you're a cynical person, you'll say it won't happen. If you're a hopeful person, you'll think maybe it will happen. But even if you're that hopeful person, you have to you kind of put out of your mind the knowledge that what you wanted originally, that was wildly popular among the voting electorate, that's not going to be in there.
Yes, and would overall be much more popular if they would stop removing the parts that were popular. But yeah, there's a lot of territory, if you want to be cynical. First of all, that it could just not pass at all, or that if it passes, what will be left of it? And we will be doing weeks of probably that as some of the worst people in the country in positions of power start to influence this. But we do also want to talk about what is in it. So what do we actually have? First of all, by the way, it passed 220 to 213. No Republicans supported it. They don't support any of that, or they just know that if they vote for it, then Trump will make it his dying wish to destroy their political career or whatever. But all this stuff, no matter how popular, no matter how needed, not a single one of them supported it. So let's be clear about that. We will criticize people like Manchin and Sinema, who also try to strip these things away. But we're also not forgetting that like no Republicans won any of it. So just bear that in mind. However, let's go. I'm gonna skip ahead one graphic to this little chart. It's gonna show you what made it in and how big it is. A few different categories of spending for families. Almost $500 billion allocated to the climate. You have healthcare spending, you have housing and immigration, other spending as well. And you can also see all of the money that's intended to help pay for it. So we're not gonna do the thing where we try to figure out at any given minute how many billions are going to what, like we've done that many times. But we will say that in the end, it included things like universal pre-kindergarten, generous subsidies for childcare that extend well into the middle class, expanded financial aid for college, but not free public college or free community college, let's be clear about that. Hundreds of billions of dollars in housing support, home and community care for older Americans, a new hearing benefit for Medicare, and price controls for prescription drugs. So you got the hearing, not the dental and eyes, which they wanted. I guess hopefully your ears are the problem part because that's what they're gonna protect. But also on those prescription drugs, every bit of this was gonna be better. On the prescription drugs, this is not they can negotiate on everything. It's we've selected, I think, 10. But I will say, there are obviously people who, for instance, if you just take insulin, one of the greatest examples of something that should effectively be almost free, that instead costs a lot of money. There are people who pay hundreds and hundreds, if not more than $1,000 a month on insulin. From what I read, it is going to be capped, the monthly payment for insulin will be capped at $35, which even if there was nothing else in this bill, if you're one of the many people that is paying a ton of money on that, that's a significant improvement to your life right there. So anyway, there's more stuff too, Brett, but what do you think about what's in there?
Specifically with prescription drugs, the way that you need to, and I'm talking to generally the audience and everyone out there who is trying to get the word out. Restricting Medicare from negotiating drug prices makes drug prices higher. And Medicare is older Americans qualify for Medicare. Now, every other developed nation negotiates drug prices when they buy a bunch of drugs from pharmaceutical companies. That is a negotiation. That is basically the Costco model. We're gonna buy a lot and offer it for cheaper, and we'll negotiate with you. If you keep that from happening, you're charging grandma and grandpa a lot more money for drugs.
Yep.
So Republicans, every single one of them wants to tax grandma for being too old. This is the party that says they're for family values. They want to tax grandma for being too old. And worse, who do they want the money to go to? They want the money to go to a bunch of fat pork and corruption within this privatized crony capitalism industry of healthcare. That's it. That's where the money's going. Yeah. And does it need to be that much money that we sink, that this government program, and by that I mean the government policy of refusing to save money for grandma and grandpa, like other countries do it all the time, and our system is twice as much. So regardless of whether it's going to the government or Blue Cross or Blue Shield or Aetna, your money, too much of your money, more of your money than the proportion of money spent by anyone in any other developed nation goes into that system.
Yeah.
And their government policy, the Republican government policy, is to tax grandma and grandpa too much and to make your daily payment into the medical industry way more than it is, twice as much as it is in other countries. And at the end of that, you're gonna die sooner because our life expectancy is shorter than theirs.
Yeah. Well, and everything that you just said is totally true. That's one of the, there's a lot of stuff that they stripped out that is unconscionable, undefendable, which is why they don't really try to defend it. But that's one of the biggest ones where no sane person agrees with anyone who is trying to take that out. But let's also put in the context of a 1.5 year long period where the Republicans who stand for nothing except ever continuing profits for these large corporations have tried to be like, hey, we're against big pharma because we don't want the mandates and we don't like the vaccine. Like they have picked that up to pretend that for once they're opposed to the interests of a major industry. But that doesn't have anything to do with that. This would have theoretically been a threat to this industry, and of course, every single one of them opposes it. So I'm sure it was fun for them to put on a costume of someone who was willing to stand up to corporations. But when it really comes down to it, they're very clear where they stand. So
there's 10 drugs. 10 drugs made the cut. Every drug that didn't make the cut is Kyrsten Sinema and all the Republicans saying, no, I want to charge grandma way more for that drug.
Yeah, exactly.
That is it. They are reaching in to the greatest generation's pockets and stealing money for them under penalty and threat of death.
Yep.
End of discussion.
Who supports that? What regular person supports that? But Kyrsten Sinema doesn't. She's not doing interviews on Anderson Cooper every day. Like, yeah, no, here is why your grandma should pay more for these drugs. Anyway, some of those will now be cheaper. Now understand that a lot has been taken out. Some has been left in. A case can be made, shouldn't be. So the state and local tax deduction that there's been a lot of debate about recently is still the second costliest provision of the budget bill over 5 years. So that is taking up a big amount of that cost that effectively the sum total of what we're paying out and what we're taking in will have. By the way, that provision is why one Democrat opposed the bill, Representative Jared Golden. Well, he says anyway. He said because they raised the federal tax deduction for state and local taxes, he would be opposing the bill overall. It wasn't enough to sink it, but that's where he stood on that. Also, by the way, as of Wednesday, Manchin was still saying, I've been very clear where I stand on paid leave being in the bill. So, paid leave is in the bill, by the way. I don't know if we mentioned that. 4 weeks, not 12. And we will see if any of that makes it through the Senate, but some of it is still in there. So that's good. Now, okay. Now that Build Back Better has passed, how is it being presented by the media? Well, look, I think there is some media that is acknowledging that this is big. Bearing in mind that it's not done yet or anything like that, but still, how is the media gonna present this? But while some are saying it's big, others are saying that it's big in a different way. So I went to Fox News just out of curiosity, their front page to see what they had to say. And they have it, they have a screenshot saying House approves Biden's mammoth spending package, bill heads to Senate. So they put the 1.75 million. Apparently it's not actually what it costs, it's slightly less than that. But no acknowledgement there that it was supposed to be at least twice as big as that, if not 3 or 4 times bigger than that. Breitbart has a lot on it. Behemoth Build Back Better. $4.91 trillion price tag. And I know what you're thinking. Wait, it isn't 4.91 trillion. And you're right, it's not. But that's a bigger number, so they're going with that. More taxes, regulations, control over you. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. And of course, they're not gonna make the case. Like all of the positive things that it'll do, there's no acknowledgement of any of that. It's just the most radical far left policy. So we have to hope that the Democrats are not only able to pass it, but also sell it, explaining why these things are so important. And by the way, they're not going to, conservatives are not gonna see any of this. In the wake of this passing, this is what Fox was talking about. Artificial Christmas trees in short supply.
This was one of my favorite graphics.
Yep, well, that's the news, according to them.
Hey,
And then,
good
of
for
course,
them, man. They're trying not to cut down trees. Build Back Better is already in there. They're trying to preserve the forests.
That is great.
I love this. Like, I saw a tweet the other day that was like, yo, here's the difference between Pete Davidson and my hero, Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan's so ripped, a man's man. And it's like, all right, all you men's defying trying to, proudly declare yourself to be such like real dudes. You're triggered by the size of someone else's package. These guys that were looking for like the tiny package, we want to pass the slim package. Like you're upset and you're mad, and I get it that this package is bigger. And you're sad that when you ask people whether they want a big package or your tiny non-existent package, they want the big package. I'm sorry. In this case, size does matter, but don't worry. The stuff you're spending money on to compensate for your shriveled little weenies, the defense budget is $7.5 trillion over this time period. So your tiny roided wasabi pea testicles are gonna be okay. You can bury your sorrows in missiles and tanks and everything else you buy to compensate for your shriveled little dong sauce.
I'm quite uncomfortable. Small amendment to that. That would be the price over 10 years, assuming that the defense budget didn't go up every single year. In the end, it will be far more than that. By the way, they're also they're lying about what it's going to cost. CBS News tweets this: it will increase the deficit by $367 billion over 10 years. No, it won't. No, it won't. It's even kind of a lot here. The CBO put out this one saying it would increase it by 367, not counting additional revenue that may be generated by additional funding for tax enforcement. Well, wait, what are you talking about? You're not going to count that stuff. First of all, you scored it and you said that would save a bunch of money. This would be like me looking at the future of my lifestyle and saying, man, that's gonna cost me a lot of money without counting my salary. Well, no, but what are you talking about that you're not gonna count that? It's just a massive, massive deception. So it is still gonna increase the deficit by a little bit. You know what else will? The massive bloated military budget. Do you see a lot of headlines about that every year? No. Anyway, so there's gonna be, we're not done yet. And there's also gonna be a lot of dishonesty throughout this whole thing.
Before you move on, one last point. When the Republicans talk about their tax cuts, so this thing that they're complaining about with the CBO deficit judgment minus any additional revenue brought in by policies that create tax revenue. Every time Republicans argue for tax cuts, their literal argument is this will open up businesses to create more jobs and a bigger economy that will, long tail, hold on for it, wait for it, create additional revenue because of this policy for the federal government and thereby eliminate the deficit. Now, the difference in the Bush the tax cut from Trump and this one is $367 billion over 10 years. No. Trillions and trillions of dollars over 10-year span for Trump's tax cut. Was the deficit increase. That's already borne out, by the way.
Yeah. Okay, well, nobody in the audience is aware of this, but there is some breaking news. I know that you've all been so laser focused on what we've been saying that you didn't notice it, but we did because we multitask. So the verdict has been announced for Kyle Rittenhouse, found not guilty of all homicide and other charges for killing 2 people, wounding another with a gun that he never should have had. He did, from the perspective of the justice system, nothing wrong. I may be going a little bit more expansive there, but the lesson that is going to millions and millions of conservatives that believe that this guy is some combination of Captain America and Jesus, the message that is going to other people who will have to make the decision in the future. Do I want to grab an assault rifle and go help remove spray paint? Is if you do it and if you end up killing someone, there's a very good chance that from the perspective of the US government, you didn't do a damn thing wrong. And so he's off. He's there. You can't question any of the decisions that he made. He didn't do anything wrong. Now, we're not surprised by this, Brett, but that's terrible. Just terrible.
I mean, this is different. So there's 2 different essentially separate and unequal versions of justice in America, right? And because it's America, one of them is just money. So there's all different kinds of murder, manslaughter, voluntary, involuntary, all the way down. He has got away with all of that. This guy who you'll still see. I mean, yesterday I watched way too much of a Ben Shapiro question and answer session, and I don't know. At the end of the day, a lot of folks out there, they'll be saying like, he's like, he tries to qualify it. I wouldn't send my kid out to do that kind of stuff. But the point is, yeah, but he says that kind of stuff. But it emboldens a lot of folks to go out and do that. And even Ben Shapiro said there's no evidence that he wanted to hurt people, except for the video we have of him saying like, I would shoot that person for robbing a store. Yeah. And this is a main theme that people need to focus on, because it's in the history and it's going forward. It's a trend that seems to be emboldened by this.
Yeah,
Republicans, when there's people fighting against the police, doing unjust things in America, and those people are in urban areas, they're black, brown, or like white allies or whatever. They always say like, don't ever question the police. The police are infallible. Don't ever question that authority. Right. But in this situation, and with the Ahmaud Arbery case, the argument from Ben Shapiro is the same. He's like, if you think that you're right, go and do it. Question that authority. Go take a gun to a knife fight. Go take a gun to a guy who's out for a jog, and we'll find a way to defend you. And it's creating something that is just it should ring false in everyone's ears.
Yeah.
Should just for Republicans, should police officers be police officers? Or should everyone who has a gun be a police officer? There's something just that should be cognitive dissonance to you in terms of how we should design a society and the laws we should have.
Brett, you are asking for constants, actual principles, positions. They don't have that. It's contingent. Everything is contingent. Should you respect the cops? Let alone should you obey the cops? Should you respect the cops? Yeah, obviously, right? I mean, they got the flags and everything, unless the cops try to stop them from getting in the Capitol, in which case they want to kill the cops. Like, it's all contingent. If you stand with the movement, the monolithic movement, then you're a great person. If you defy it in literally any way, if you criticize Donald Trump, if you vote against him in any way, if you try to stop the protesters from moving in, they all now act like Trump. Trump is known for demanding loyalty and never rewarding it. If you ever turn against him, it doesn't matter what you did. Even for decades, he will throw you under the bus. He will try to burn you to the ground. The movement now does that to people, to institutions. But yeah, I mean, look, we're gonna have more of this. We had the McCloskeys, like you should be threatening people who don't even care about any of your stuff. They're not interested in you. They were hoping someone would step on their property so they could shoot them. And now we're gonna have more of this. Like if he was 7 years older, he'd be in Congress after this cycle, because this is all that they have and it's all that they want. People were joking on Twitter about him giving a speech at the RNC. First of all, I'm not even 100% sure that he didn't at the last one, but he definitely will at the next one, because this is what they laud. This is what a good person is. You're a dumb idiot if you laud an activist like Greta, but Kyle Rittenhouse is the best sort of American.
Yeah.
Anyway,
and to get back to like, there's still going to be wrongful death, civil cases against this guy. Mm-hmm. And so in that situation, there is a way different standard for assuming or assigning liability to people for monetarily. And that's what I mean. Like that's the more American one to me. It's because jury of your peers, whatever, rule of law. No. Obviously that's wishy-washy. But the one where it's like, how much do you owe me for this? There is a lower standard. Specifically in these situations, like the kinds of things that precipitate, who is responsible for the death of these people and who should be paying the consequences monetarily. I think, when I talked to a prosecutor about this who said like the only one that's close is a voluntary manslaughter charge, and the weapons charge. Well, the weapons charge got thrown out because of how the law was worded, not its spirit. Saying you can have an assault rifle, but you can't have like brass knuckles.
Yeah.
In a city.
It was like a length thing or whatever. It was a very like specific thing.
It was is they have a whole completely other section for how long your rifle is, because of course they would. But like in the part where it's like you can't have these things in a city, they didn't counteract the part of the other part of the law about hunting with a long gun.
Yeah. Look, we're gonna have more on this obviously on the main show. I will say one more thing, and it's I saw a comment before it was deleted in Twitch, and it was a person who was like laughing, like Rittenhouse for president, suck it lefties. And no, I'm glad that you put that message, because there's a lot of people that are that same person. That person thinks that they're like incredibly independent and they're thinking outside of the box. They don't realize that their brain has been turned to worm-ridden tapioca pudding by the propaganda of the right, with the goal of making millions of Americans think that all of politics, all of this debate, everything having to do with government should be like, yeah, that's the end of it. Don't expect anything. Your life is gonna suck. It'll never get better. Why won't it get better? Because you have no expectations for government, and you shouldn't. You've been trained to think that the best sort of people are vigilantes who go out and shoot people. And then you should just spend all your time talking about how awesome they are and the people who defend them. And yeah, wasn't it great that like Matt Gaetz offered him a job? Will I ever own a home? Probably not. It's slipping more and more away out of you. Your wages are probably never going to improve. But yeah, Rittenhouse, isn't it great? And they don't get that all of that propaganda that has smoothed their brain into a crystal orb with no imperfections is designed to make sure that there's never any higher taxes, that the rich and corporations never pay a dime more than they do now, that no social spending is ever approved if it necessitates taxes. All of it is designed to protect the most wealthy, powerful people in the country. And the tools they use is turning people like that commenter into willing purveyors of their nonsensical, emotional. I'm just gonna stick with nonsense. I'm gonna stick with that. It's nonsense, and they don't realize it. They've been drafted into a war, and they don't even realize what the battlefield is. They have no idea what the goals are. They just know, it feels good to say, yeah, suck it, lefties. That'll help you. You're gonna have a great retirement with saying suck it, lefties. You're gonna be able to pay for your prescription drugs later in life by saying suck it, lefties, because that's how the world works.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts?
No, that's it. If I'm trying to say like there's a lesson in that, the lesson is let's give our people something to fight for that they're passionate about. There's no one on the left in power providing that rah rah sis boom ba, let's get them message at all. There's no leader. The leader is like literally, the most intestinal fortitude movement, thing that he displayed lately is the fact that he's getting a colonoscopy today. Like Biden, I have not seen him stand up and be like, "This is what it's for. Here's the Build Back Better Act. We're making it happen." He's still got like that Senate DNA and possibly the like, there are no corporate taxes from my state DNA, where he's behind the scenes being like, Senate's dope. We're gonna have a great time in our cloakroom and talk about what deal we're gonna make. And maybe he's doing that, and I'll see what happens at the end of it. But I'll always remember that a lot of what we've been fighting for, the things that get people excited on the left and just generally in the public, you need to remind them about that and that you're fighting that for them. And they just don't do it. And it's very, very frustrating.
It is. Okay, we're gonna take our first break. We're a little bit over. When we come back, we're gonna have Kevin McCarthy's very long, very bad speech. We'll have that for you, and then a little bit of fun. But first, this break.
I'm a dragon. Rawr, that's my voice.
Okay, so I only remembered about 8 minutes into this block that with our producer Marissa not here, I'm the one pulling comments. So I pulled as many as I could, but we're gonna see what happens here. By the way, I saw a tweet that was, if you see someone with an AR-15, you better shoot first and you better not miss. It all comes down to the person that's alive was the one doing self-defense.
I get it. I get the decision. Like I get it. And when that happened, when I was like looking through what happened, like the dude, I understand that there's people out there who, like the guy with the gun that approached and the guy with the skateboard that approached, like that person was doing right, but the way that the law is worded, like he didn't do, he's gonna get off for that.
Sure, I mean, there seem like there are some lingering problems though. Are you not allowed to stop an active shooter?
Right, that's it. And where are the people on the right being like,
if you do, then it was self-defense. If you fail to, it was self-defense for the active shooter. That I do not understand how that's debatable. That if you try to like throw a chair at a school shooter and he shoots you, presumably he was defending himself.
But like in the Ahmaud Arbery case, so much depends upon a guy, like whether it's okay after all the stuff that led to it. The people who thought they were creating a citizen's arrest, whether they thought they were being justified in it. There's gotta be something else there. There's gotta be something other than that legal argument. Like, did they think they were in the right trying to arrest him? And when he fights back against these random ass people that showed up, the legal question comes down to that. Like, were they then in self-defense? But if you precipitated every part of this, you brought the gun as provocation, as indicated by your previous statements. Yeah. It's just so frustrating, almost as frustrating as the people who are like, well, a guy that my team says is a hero won a case. So I'm not only happy that that happened, but I'm happy that people who are upset that anyone was shot and killed are upset.
Yeah. Well, look, maybe as with Nicholas Salmon, I'm gonna make this prediction. Maybe we were wrong, and maybe they're not actual garbage people with terrible motivations. And we will be able to find out by watching them. I mean, if that's true of Kyle Rittenhouse, then you'll never hear of him again. He'll just go off and have a regular life, not doing terrible things and saying terrible things to get the right wing to laud him again. We'll see. Nicholas Salmon felt the need to write an op-ed about Kyle Rittenhouse. I was led to believe that he was just a perfectly innocent kid that didn't have any ill intent in his heart during the Covington thing. I don't know, seems like he kind of still wants to be the right wing's darling. We will see with Kyle Rittenhouse as well. Hopefully he doesn't kill any more people, because really the only thing we know about him is that he likes to kill people. Anyway, Kathy Harvey has been a tier 1 member for 8 months, says love you guys, thank you very much. Pedro, welcome to tier 1 membership on YouTube, appreciate you being here. Let's see, Kelly M says, no dental care for Medicare, that sucks. I had to pull a tooth myself last summer because Medicare won't pay for it, and I'm on disability and couldn't afford the dentist. I think that's terrible and that's unacceptable. I guess Manchin and Cinema don't have a problem with it, and a bunch of others. So I guess it'll just continue. Anyway, Lori Trotter says this will only embolden them more, and I'm afraid it's a free pass to kill us. There was no justice. No, it's the justice system. There should be quotes everywhere it appears in text. Anyway, apologize that we didn't get to more. In the next break, we will. Thank you for all your comments. We will have more in a bit, but first, we got some more news. Okay, we thanks to that breaking news, we're a little bit behind on the rundown, but we're gonna see if we can catch up a bit. Let's jump right into this.
I can look anywhere I want, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I cannot believe the amount of control one-party rule wants. They now want to dictate to a member of the floor of where I can look? Are you afraid of the basis of the information in the bill? Sir, I'm gladly to look at you, Mr. Speaker. There's a difference between addressing and looking. I know one-party rule wants to control every element of our lives.
Okay, so that's what it looks like when a man with power he doesn't deserve and shouldn't have, doesn't get that he's a joke, doesn't get that he has nothing, and believes that he's really doing a good job. And that was at some point during a 8.5 hour long speech designed to stop for as long as possible you getting, I don't know, like a hearing benefit or elder care or paid leave. That's all it was. And there was a lot of nonsense, and we'll get to some more of it, Brett, but I think that sums it up pretty well. That little whiny tantrum.
This is what I want. This is the filibuster America deserves. This used to be how it was. In order for you to stop legislation that by his own admission, by saying single party rule, America wants. By the way, that's an attack on the American people. What Kevin McCarthy just did was an attack on your voice because you voted for this. And when we ask you what you want in your bills, you want this. And Kevin McCarthy is going against you, and he's standing up there for 8 hours complaining that you want what you want. Okay? And then the other thing is, you used to have to talk for 24 hours straight 150 hours of talking throughout the whole Senate in order to delay a vote so much that like literally the close sign comes up. And now they have this thing called cloture where it's like you need 60 people to just be like, would we, if we had to speak, would you stop us from speaking or not? But they never have to do the work. I love that Kevin McCarthy had to go there for 8 hours and shout every so often so he himself wouldn't fall asleep.
Yeah, because he was as bored as everyone else.
Good God,
a little bit impressive.
Such a weenie. He's such a weenie. I love it.
No, totally. And we'll get to the purpose of this, but we have a lot of great videos we gotta get to. So there was a fun moment. You have to strain to hear it, but listen in the background of this clip.
Just a few weeks ago, Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger said, nobody elected Joe Biden to be FDR.
Okay, so it wasn't really audible in our version, and I believe the subtitles are under the lower third. So that was unfortunate. But right after he said that, AOC yelled out very low, she's far away, I did. And I mean, look, it's complicated. I didn't, in that I never thought he would be that, but I think a lot of people desperately hope that he will do that. That even something as now neutered as Build Back Better. Let's pause very briefly. Imagine if Build Back Better did pass. It is way, way smaller than it was in ways that are really, really bad. But it's also, maybe Brett, maybe you can fill me like something I'm forgetting. I feel like in the last 21 years, if you look at what the government has done, that's good, I mean, that actually helps working Americans. There was the ACA, and then maybe this. I mean, I guess there was like the rescue plan, kind of. That was, during a pandemic. I feel like that's it, and they hate it. They hate the couple of things in our lifetime the government has done. That's a significant outflow of money that doesn't go to defense contractors. Instead, it goes to you and I. And Drew and George, I'm not saying the ACA was amazing, but I'm saying it was at least the government spending money on us for once. And they hate it. They absolutely hate it.
I definitely know for a fact that if you've been paying this much attention to politics, you know that the tagline for Joe Biden is he wants to be the next FDR. That's it. That was what he said. I'm looking at an op-ed from before this all went down, from the New York Times, from Jennifer Medina saying, Biden wanted an FDR presidency. How's he doing so far? And Joe Manchin knows it. Nancy Pelosi knows it. The people know it because and whether it's explicitly FDR or not, they wanted it. And compare this to the New Deal. It is teensy tiny. It is not a bunch, and it's compared to the Great Society. It is none of that. That's the other one that happened along the way.
100%, yeah. Now look,
nothing.
Sure, I mean, look, it wouldn't have been the New Deal if it hadn't been cut by more than half, and it's still going to be cut more now. But he said, I have to stand against. McCarthy said, I have to stand against it because it's the biggest, most reckless spending bill ever. And look, I will promise you this: for the rest of your life, assuming he stays in politics, he will say that about literally any bill that spends money on working Americans. That's just he's a robot. That's all it is. It's a message that he's delivering. The goal of the overall message is, please make me speaker if we take back control. Look at me, I can waste our time. That's the only thing we're supposed to do. And I thought about playing more of his speech. I decided we're gonna sum it up as quickly as possible. Here is the rest of the 8 hours and 32 minutes of his speech.
Blah, blah, blah.
Thank you. Anyway, that's all it was. Oh, like he wasn't saying, he's talking about Abraham Lincoln. He's talking about supposed free, like he's very impressed with himself and not impressive at the same time. It is just trying out to get Trump to like him, to get them to support him as speaker. And understand, by the way, that the dark undercurrent of all of this is that they're probably going to take control through the Democrats, fooling around with the power that they have and not using it, combined with gerrymandering. They almost certainly will take control. So there's a very real chance he will be the speaker in just a couple of years.
And speak he did.
That's true. I guess that is the job.
That's so bad. Let's just talk about he's this big wuss bag. He's so bad, man. Oh, Mr. Speaker, you can't tell me where to look. Thank you. And all you're thinking, like he knows he needs to speak for as long as possible. So that he can have his Mr. Smith goes to Washington moment. But like, it's amazing. Like he can't pull it off. And he's so grateful when then the speaker says, don't address that person, address the chair. It's the rule, it's the law, it's the rule of law. You guys absolutely love that stuff. And he's just, while he's angry, he's so happy that someone gave him like 2 more minutes of BS to say.
Well, let's play something a little bit more fun, okay? While Kevin McCarthy was going on and on and on, he might still somewhere be speaking at this point. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was doing some live streaming of her reactions to it. So here's a bit of that.
Live from the cloakroom of the United States House of Representatives, one of the worst, lowest quality speeches I have ever had. Look at this, the absolute atrocious lack of privilege to witness. Kevin McCarthy speaking against unions, speaking against universal child care and universal pre-K, child care, etc. Along with all these Agent Smiths in the background, exhibiting the stunning diversity of the Republican Party. Look at all of those different colored ties and haircuts. Not only that, but he has managed to speak for over an hour with one of the lowest vocabularies I have ever seen coming from a member of House leadership of any party. It is stunning to me how long a person can talk, knowing and exhibiting and communicating so little.
I just love the reference to the Matrix. Needless reference to the Matrix. It reminds me of most episodes of the Damage Report. There's no reason to make those references, but I appreciate it. Yeah, no, that was funny. I mean, look, for a lot of people, that was the only reason they could get through some of these hours was tuning into her, and we'll have some of Jamie Raskin as well doing the live commentary. Because I know who's paying attention to Kevin McCarthy. I don't think that there were millions of conservatives who were like watching C-SPAN, like eating popcorn and raptured with what the minority leader was saying there.
They're all embarrassed. They're all embarrassed because they want Trump. That's what they want. They want to see Elvis. They don't want an Elvis impersonator. And you know what's worse is they're doing like, he's doing an impression not of like Trump on The Apprentice. He's doing an impression of Trump doubled over a toilet. Like later Elvis, he's doing that impression and he can't pull it off. And I do think, and my point on this is Kevin McCarthy is a fantastic minority leader because he represents points that a minority of Americans actually want. He's against workers' rights. The minority of people are for that. He's against negotiating prices on Medicare. Minority of people, like 20% of people, 17% of people are in favor of that. He's against paid family leave. Maybe 15% of people are in favor of that position. So he represents the minority perfectly.
I think that's a great point. That's a great point. Okay, let's go to a little bit more of this. You did see that there was that like the tableau of weirdos behind him. AOC is actually going to break down some of who those individuals are.
Let's re-examine this peanut gallery right over here. Okay, ready? All right, this right here, Mike Pence's brother, also a member of Congress. I mean, you know, whatever. Okay, here we have Representative Clyde, who said that January 6th was a collection of tourists. Meanwhile, I heard that he was crying like a little baby on the day that it was happening. And I mean, look at all these folks. Again, stunning diversity in the House Republican Caucus. Yeah, listen. And then of course we have their leader. So, you know, I mean.
Yeah, so I love that she pointed out, like, I'm sure he's hardly the only individual. She referenced his commentary about the tourists and what he was actually doing that day. Like, they were all legitimately terrified. Some of them made the mistake of mentioning that day or the day after. Nancy Mace is a great example of that. And then realized, oh wait, the position of my party is that this was actually a great thing that happened. I can't let people know that I was worried that I would be murdered. But some of them were terrified, and I like that she's willing to point that out. She was very honest about her experience, and she was roasted by the right wing for daring to talk about it. So I did like that.
So good. And I love the guy next to McCarthy who pulls his mask down because he's like, oh my God, the whole reason I'm here is to raise my profile, and people might not know who I am.
Yeah.
So I got to do this and like pretend to like adjust. It's like when you, pretend that it's like on purpose for a reason that has to do with like my mask needing to be readjusted. But
exactly, but they're not great actors. Okay, very briefly, let's go to a bit of Jamie Raskin.
Are you moved by the fact that Vice President Pence's brother is sitting next to a group of people who defend the insurrectionists who were chanting "Hang Mike Pence"?
They really,
Hang Mike Pence.
I mean, you have Ted Cruz, that the president humiliates his family and he goes to bat for him. And then you have this man, you're right, sitting next to people who were encouraging folks who literally wanted to harm his own family. I don't understand it. I don't understand it.
Okay, well, in the brother's defense, I don't think we can expect him to be more worried about his brother being killed than his brother appears to. Pence is fine with it, so I feel like his family can probably make their peace with it too. Okay, with that, I'm being yelled at by our producers. So yes, Sophie, we'll go to break. Don't worry, Brett. I'm sure you had great commentary, but we're not gonna get to it. We'll have more after this.
Never do. I'm a dragon. I'm a dragon. I'm a dragon.
I saw a comment that was like, wait, was that not a real dragon speaking during the first one?
It was a
okay,
dragon.
But thank you all for being here. I know we wish we didn't have to do breaks, so we do have to do breaks. When we come back, we'll have more, don't worry. Okay, so.
This is a break to chat.
It is a break to chat, and we're gonna chat. First of all, I wanna let you know that Wazi Lambre is gonna be joining Rashad Ritchie on Indisputable later on today, so that's exciting. I'm going to be on the first hour of the, look at how exciting that is. Cenk Uygur, obviously, on the first hour with me. Also, Morgan Harper, that's fun. And then J.R. Jackson, Cenk, and Jackson White. The double Jackson hour. They said it couldn't be done. Will be coming up in the second hour of the Young Turks later on today. What do you got on the docket for Game Busters?
Game Busters, you should play. We're doing this, Squid Game. Something that, a lot of people are having awesome parties in their house. Their Squid Game, and I want to talk about. Probably not going to mention on the show today. But we're going to play Crab Game, which is a free game that you can play online, and a lot of people are going to be there. We got people from QAnon Anonymous. Jordan has brought together a true hive of scum and villainy.
Great.
Ray, Ben, like a bunch of people are going to be in there playing the Squid Game. Basically, all the games in Squid Game, we're going to be playing it in very, very low resolution, and it's really, really fun.
Awesome, can't wait. Okay, let's see. Out here in the chat, a lot of people were sending messages saying that they were waiting for the verdict to come in. Yeah. Over in Twitch, Drew and Georgia gifted a tier 1 sub, much appreciated. Tandy B80 gifted 5 as well. Thank you. Bad Rongo hit 15 months as a Twitch subscriber. Thank you for that. Brooke Marks is saying Sabrina, I think, will be in that stream as well. That's cool. Let's see. Jason Ray says, so when the Proud Boys or other keepers have a rally in a stand your ground state and you fear for your life while in the precedent of the rally, does legal precedent allow someone to shoot them? No. I mean, look, again, we're trying to divine standards, but we know that these aren't really standards. A lot of it comes down to biases of average juries, the way that judges rule, the effect that they have, a lot of that. Tyler Hackner wasn't surprised, neither was I. Nana Nikki says, so by the term set forth by the judicial system, doesn't Boebert's husband face the death penalty? I don't know what that's a reference to. I don't know, but thank you for the comment though. Stoneflower Dragon says, without the ACA, I would be dead from cancer. So it has had a large impact on people. Yes, exactly. And now I think that there were much better policies that we could have had. Hippie Mama of 2 says, what does the Agent Smiths mean? Is there another reason I should be ashamed of my last name? Hippie Mama of 2, I'm gonna give you some homework for next week of the damage report. Go watch The Matrix. It's good. It holds up very well.
It does not hold up remotely well.
What?
It's not all its fault, but like I rewatched it. First of all, the second and third movie never held up well.
First of all, I think you watched it with us outdoors. Actually, I think isn't that
they
the
probably
one where you
hold up better. The second one, because second and third, they're probably benefit from that. Like actually, it's not as bad as I remember it. But the first one has been mimicked so much, and all those things that blew your mind when you go back and watch it, you're like, oh, it wasn't as great. So there's no way that holds up as much. I watched it. It's pretty bad. It's like try mescaline. Have you tried mescaline? Oh, it'll blow your mind.
I'm not saying that.
It's the only way to fly. It's like a bunch of people like, you know what's cool? Leather and tiny glasses.
Well, it was at that point. Look, I would have hated the mescaline line too. But anyway,
okay. You don't have time, John, and I win because your argument's a loser.
You're a loser. I hate you. God damn it.
I wish Fight Club held up better. It doesn't.
Sophie, I have a late breaking change to my garbage person, actually. Okay, with that, we have like 6 minutes to get through this. By the way, we're not gonna get to everything on the rundown. Thanks, Kyle Rittenhouse. It's one of the worst things you've done recently, at least. Anyway, okay, with that, let's jump into this. Paul Gosar recently was censured by the House. It doesn't happen often, and with it came him being taken off of his committees. Now, of course, this was because he shared a doctored video showing him as one of several people murdering Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Earlier this year, Marjorie Greene also was taken off of her committees. I don't exactly remember why. Was it the calling for Speaker Pelosi to be shot, or was it the space lasers? It was the gold star about the masks, right? It was her comparing herself to the victims of the Holocaust. I don't know. Yeah. She's done a lot of bad stuff. But anyway, they're only perhaps temporarily off of those committees because recently Kevin McCarthy, the House Minority Leader, who might well be our next speaker, said they'll have committees. They may have other committee assignments. He then went a step further saying they may have better committee assignments. So not only is he saying that they will reverse what happened, but they're going to literally reward them for all of their bad behavior, the anti-Semitic comments, the threats of violence against other members of the House. He is saying, we like that so much, we're gonna give you better committee assignments. And here's what AOC had to say about this.
I would love Leader McCarthy to shout that from the rooftops. Please let him communicate to the entire country that he is deeply supportive of people who are violent towards women, and that he is deeply supportive of members and deeply accepting of members who fundraise for neo-Nazi organizations and placing them on important committees.
They're referring to, again, Gosar, and she's not wrong. Like, he is, whether he actually likes any of this, and I don't know Kevin McCarthy, maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. He knows that the only way he will probably continue as a representative, is certainly the only way he'll become Speaker of the House, is if he gives a stamp of approval to all of the worst excesses of Gosar and Marjorie Greene and Boebert and Cawthorn. So, and he wants that job. He's not gonna let them lose it for him. So God only knows what their next moves are gonna be, what violent imagery they're gonna put out, what insane anti-Semitic conspiracy theories they're gonna spread. And he is going to sign on to it if he wants to make good on his political ambitions. Bart, what do you think?
It's just insane. I love the argument. There have been a lot of great arguments that shouldn't have to be made, if that makes sense. Like, so if you work anywhere else and you post that you want to kill your coworker, you made this on Tuesday, like, you get fired, and you should get fired. And I don't care that you, and Dr. Ritchie pointed out that there's like a law that no matter what you say in front on like the floor of the House of Representatives, you can't go to jail for it. He's like, it's a weird law or something like that. It was like part in passing a conversation. I love that happened. Sure, fine. But like these are things that if you look back through the not so distant history of the United States Congress, you'll see people losing their minds and calling for people to be removed from office because of stuff way less egregious than posting a video where they kill not only one of their colleagues in the House of Representatives, but also the president of the United States of America. And I love the double standard. And I love the concept of, I love the argument by AOC where she says, go and shout it from the rooftops. I want more people to know this. And not only that, but let's play the video of Gosar talking, because I didn't actually check in on this poll I put out. I can't tell if he's-
we don't have that video.
He's lost it, or he's on drugs, or he's just an a-hole.
Oh,
but there's
you're talking about from yesterday? Yeah, there's something wrong with him.
There's something definitely wrong with this guy. And I don't like when people like put it out there to make the narrative about how this guy might have something wrong with him when he doesn't. Like there is something very wrong with Representative Gosar. He shouldn't be on any of the committees he's on. And I love it. I want Mike McCarthy to shout more things from the rooftops.
I agree. Yeah. This is not a winning. It's like standing. They need to say that they like Marjorie Greene and that they like Paul Gosar and Matt Gaetz. That is not a winning national strategy. Remember, people didn't like Trump. They have to do it for their thing. That doesn't mean that it works nationally. And by the way, to that double standard, let's just bear in mind, Ilhan Omar was not censured for her tweet a couple of years ago about being all about the Benjamins, but she was criticized on the House floor, saying that that was an anti-Semitic tweet. Earlier this week, Lauren Boebert called her a member of the Jihad Squad on the House floor, and that's not even a news. Like that is obviously Islamophobic. That is not, well, it really plays into tropes. No, that's just an Islamophobic comment. She's not being censured for that. Think about how far we've devolved as a people. But anyway,
tan suit.
Yeah, exactly. The tan suit, the fist bump, the coffee. Anyway, McCarthy is behind Paul Gosar. Donald Trump is behind Paul Gosar, putting out one of his little tweet statements that says, Congressman Paul Gosar has been a loyal supporter of our America First agenda and even more importantly, the USA. He's a congressman who's highly respected in Arizona. That's not true. Strong on crime. He even does them. He has my complete and total endorsement. And then Paul Gosar, to prove that he's a cool kid who knows he knows meme culture, he put this up on Getter. Yeah, he's cool. They're very cool people. Anyway, so that's garbage. It's just so terrible. Anyway, that is unfortunately all the time we have for first hour. So if you're on our linear platforms, thank you for watching. If you're on Twitch, YouTube, or Members app, we do have more coming for you. So we're gonna take a couple-minute break, but don't go anywhere because there's a lot more coming up after this. Welcome back, everyone, to what remains of the last show of the week. Big day, I guess, for the news. I mainly mean that Wheel of Time is available now. But Brett, thank you as always for being here. Very excited for this show and all the other great programming we have on the network today.
I've never been as happy as I am in this moment, John.
It definitely will never be again. Thank you to Lil Yumper for your super chat that says, thing that sticks out to me about this case is that he claimed to be traumatized by it, yet there is video of him smiling with police officers minutes later. America continues to show its ugliness. Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. You can be traumatized and not immediately feel it. I just don't believe that that's true in this case. But I don't rule out that people's trauma does not have to manifest as we might imagine it would. But I don't know, it doesn't. He didn't seem for months as if it was the worst thing ever, but who knows?
People were saying that was scripted. I guarantee you, like I've been someone who's given a speech and then remembered traumatic things and seized up exactly like that. Like, it just happens when he's accessing like that exact moment.
Sure.
I'm fine.
Actually.
I have the things that I think are wrong with the trial are pretty much everywhere else in it.
Yeah, and some people are like, well, don't you guys get gun laws? You're right. That's what our show is designed to do, is to simply have the law and say, oh, well, if it's the law, then there's nothing wrong here. There's nothing that should ever change. The system wasn't set up to deliver certain sorts of results or anything. I don't understand people. Anyway, Blue Queen TV has been a subscriber on Twitch for 15 months, says so pissed right now. I think that's for hitting 15 months, I think. But anyways,
hopefully that means drunk in England.
There you go. Mike Boy wraps it 10 months. Thank you for that. And with that, why don't we talk about some more news? Let's jump right into this.
You actually describe him in the opening of the book as being sort of gleefully vengeful. That the sense of vengeance is what made him happy.
He was in a good mood. Okay, so he's talking about how awful all these Republicans were who betrayed him. That if Mike Pence had had more courage, if he had done what he wanted to do, he'd still be president. The terrible things that Bill Barr had done to him, that Kevin McCarthy and Mitch McConnell had not fought for him, and he was like, it got him excited.
So there, Jonathan Karl is talking about Donald Trump and about his interviews with him, what has gotten Donald Trump fired up. We've got a little bit of more bad video for you. I kind of wanted to put this on the show today because we've done a lot of coverage of the stuff that Jonathan Karl has revealed throughout the week. And Brett, we haven't really talked about it. I'm curious what you think about the strategy of hanging on to so much information about COVID and January 6th and Mike Pence and all of this. And also about his evaluation of Trump as being primarily driven by never-ending grievances.
I'm only mad about evidence people sit on that would have been useful and revelatory earlier. Mm-hmm. Like better brought to my attention yesterday. That I've known since The Apprentice.
Yeah, that's true.
I've known that he's gleefully vengeful. That's the whole thing.
Think about like the Mike Pence one or some of the COVID stuff.
Well, that stuff also, like, go back in the library of videos on that subject. And what did we learn? Like, he was hiding information about COVID because, there's character stuff that plays out very transparently in Trump's calculations. What you see is what you get in a very, like, once you find out one thing about him, like his decoder key is pretty simple. It's that he's gleefully vengeful. And he also wants to have his name in the news because he's a marketer, not a real estate guy.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all you need to know. And what happens to a lot of folks when they get into the public sphere is they choke and they crack and they change something about themselves because they fall victim to the assumption, for better or for worse, that they need to act presidential or act in a way that befits the office. And I think that instinct in politics typically is true. And what that should translate back to is what your voters elected you to do and not what your donors are telling you to do. But Trump never shies away from being gleefully vengeful and always marketing himself.
Yeah.
And no bit of information that I got from Jonathan Karl would reveal that. It is always super weird in books. When they have a book out and this information comes out, is that just stuff that they held on to because they knew it would be better in a book or because their editor wouldn't let them publish it? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. That's an interesting theory too. I mean, I think if they know that they're doing a book and it's so much stuff, some of that they could have mentioned, but he has a little bit more his thoughts about Trump. Here you go.
You've talked to him, you sat across him. He says he seems to believe all this stuff. Did Donald Trump come across to you as somebody who is rational, mentally all there?
It's a very strange thing. He comes out, he's gregarious, he's got a way of trying to charm you. He doesn't seem like, he's somebody that's completely insane at all. I mean, he conducts himself, he conducts his business, but it's the lack of any sense of remorse, I think, that really comes across as there's something that's just not right.
Yeah.
And there's, a potential diagnosis for that, if at least informal. But I know this is one thing that we will probably disagree about, and if we do, let's do it briefly. I don't get the trying to charm you thing. I feel like every little thing I see out of him is trying to charm himself. I don't get what he is saying to Jonathan Karl to get Jonathan Karl to like him. The cutting off, the constantly bragging about himself, refusing to accept responsibility for anything he's done. But the complete lack of remorse is definitely there. I mean, I don't know, like even when he was asked about, his relationship with God and with Jesus, they're supposed to have, like, if you're born again, as he's like occasionally flirted with calling himself, you're supposed to be able to acknowledge things that you've done wrong. And he was asked about that years ago, and he couldn't come up with anything he's done that he would have done differently, that he feels he shouldn't have done. And it is very, like, that is maybe one of the most core things of him, is a complete lack of ability to, well, I can't say in terms of analyze himself. Maybe he does that. Maybe he does know what he is, but he will never, ever admit to any of it.
I agree with that. I agree that he knows what he is in a very specific way. Does that specific way result in him like going home after he's done being in front of the cameras or in the office? Does he take the makeup off, or does he sleep in it? Mm-hmm. Maybe he sleeps in it and the bed sheets in the Oval Office are just orange because he never takes it off because he doesn't know he has to, and then he comes back on and just reapplies every day. I think that's Donald Trump. In terms of him charming people, he's always charming someone in his mind. And obviously I've seen it where he's aware of the sentiment in the room to a large extent. And is that, that room shifts from the person in front of him. If it's before the interview, maybe he's trying to charm him or whatever. He takes a shot. Maybe I can win this person over. Maybe the office of the president or the gold toilet I sit on or the gold office that we're in is somewhat impressive. I've got a home court advantage. My hair and countenance is intimidating, all that stuff. And if that fails, he then just resorts to the thing we've heard him say a billion times, which is, I'm now charming my base. Mm-hmm. I always accounted for their opinion of me while I was talking to you, trying to charm you, but I always can default back to 3 or 4 things that are lazy and good marketing tactics as far as he's concerned, which are, you're an evil reporter, so why would I even care what you think? Now I'm charming someone that's watching what's on the other side of the camera.
With effectively like the political equivalent of cold reading, saying something so vague that people can put onto it whatever they want. You haven't made any real claims. In any event, we have to go through this last story very quickly if we're gonna throw away this garbage, but let's jump into this video. Okay, so you might have been able to see just a little bit down at the bottom there. Our lower thirds are really having fun with us today. The presidential seal, while President Biden was signing the bipartisan infrastructure bill earlier this week, was blurred out. Now, you probably don't make anything of that. You probably don't care, but you should understand that there are some people who really think that's an important thing, because as soon as that video was spread on Twitter of just a presidential signing, people are tweeting things like, conspiracy, what are they hiding? This is proof that QAnon is right. This also verifies that COVID-19 is fake. Now this person I think is kind of joking. But there are some people who are saying things like he's not the real president, totally fraudulent election, the truth will come out. They've got their little diagrams. Why not signed in supposedly his office? Because he's fake resident, Trump won. And there were articles on conspiracy theory websites and threads on conspiracy theory forums and all of that, because the seal happened to be a little bit blurred out. Before we get to what truth there may be about this, Brett, are you disturbed by the lack of seal clarity?
I love graphic 4. That is, why not signed in spousedly
his office.
Spousedly his office.
Was Jill supposed to sign it?
Spousedly, I love it. It is so freaking stupid. I mean, there's very specific reasons why that happened and why it was blurred. And I think you'll get into it, but it's just, I don't know. I watched videos of people in Dallas who are QAnon supporters who are gleefully awaiting the return of JFK. And I honestly think a lot of them think it's BS. And that's like the most depressing part. They're having a good time. And the other half actually are into it. And that it's a mix of trolls and people who actually are genuine believers. But I think the most interesting thing is how that's seized on and calculated until it's normalized and embraced by a right-wing messaging campaign system. Or that, there's in Casablanca, there's this great turn of phrase. It's like, I just let it pretend. She pretended she loved me and I let it pretend. And that is exactly what the Republican Party has done and always will do. They think we're on their side. The entire Trump presidency, they came in and everybody says like the Republican voting bloc thinks that the people are on their side, that the people in Congress they elected are on their side. But those folks never ever do anything to support their base in any tangible, real way. They just let it pretend.
Yeah. Well, the truth is that you can't use the seal in advertisements. So for campaigning, so when you tweet out a video like that, you're not allowed to show it. It has to be blurred. It was on Kamala Harris's personal Twitter account, so it was blurred. That's it. It doesn't prove that Biden's not the real president. I don't know how that would work. I love the idea that the system is robust enough to put a fake cyborg president in, but gives you little clues like we can't unblur the seal after all. I love that. And by the way, Trump did the same thing. If you look at it, the seal was blurred for him too. This is the sort of stuff that seemingly all of their research into this can't turn up. So no, it's not proof of anything. Anyway, are we ready to jump into our last talk of the day?
I am. But that doesn't mean anything. I do whatever you want, John. I want you to go first.
Asking you, Sophie.
I don't care who goes first.
Are we good to go?
Gee.
Okay, I think we're good. Okay, so with that, it's the end of the week, and so it's time to take out the trash. Brett, garbagey week, almost as always. Who's your garbage person of the week?
My garbage person of the week is John Kennedy from just the state of Louisiana. Biden has a nominee that's going through the confirmation process, and that person was born in the former Soviet Union and has been on Facebook and has said less than glorious things about the financial sector, and that will not stand whatsoever. And then John Kennedy, who is this, he fancies himself Columbo. He stumbles through everything and thinks he's fantastic. Here is the Oxford educated but folksy pretending John Kennedy.
In 2019, not 30 years ago, in a Canadian documentary, you called the financial services industry, quote, a quintessential industry. Now, that's what I see from your record. And you have the right to believe every one of these things. You do. This is America. But I don't mean any disrespect. I don't know whether to call you professor or comrade.
Well, you, John Kennedy, used to be a Democrat. And by your definition, Democrats are all communists. So you, comrade, should call her comrade because you're both godless communists. If you're going to go back into her history where she was born in the Soviet Union. You opted into being a Democrat for a very long time. And this guy is a liar. And to all those Republicans who watch the show, this guy is pretending everything. This guy who's like, I just found out that it's lefty loosey, righty tighty. Can you believe it? Random stuff. I can't believe it. This guy went to Oxford University. He is pretending that when he switched from Democrat to Republican, he pretended to be a Republican. All of this is an act. He's even calling people comrade on the floor.
I saw a video of it.
I saw a video of it. And then when when it was brought up on Fox News later, here's the rest. Here's the next interaction. The Fox host.
You had quite an interaction yesterday on the nominee to be the comptroller.
Yeah.
How'd that go over?
Sherrod Brown, my chairman, Senator Brown, went crack-brained on me and tried to stop me from asking questions. And I taught, and they told him to shut up. And I just think the American people are entitled not to know that the president has nominated somebody to regulate our banks who believes, as she said, in getting rid of banks. And she used to be a member of the Communist Party.
So good.
If Biden ever blinked that much in a video, that would be proof that he's a satanic alien.
But no, but I did the decoding. I'll show you. I don't know if I don't have it anymore because I always burn the evidence because I don't want the deep state to find out about it. But I did the Morse code of his blinking, and it says, yes, I am a communist. John Kennedy, former Democrat, current communist plant for the deep state. I think we should be more outraged about this than anything, because if you look into his history, he was a Democrat.
Yeah, no, it's a good point.
So
and just watching like the questioning and his appearance there, like, how did any of these people get a position of like, I get that like maybe they're given a business by their dad and so they run the business for the rest of their life, but that people choose them to represent them. I just do not understand what the appeal of a person like Kennedy is.
No, that guy's brilliant. I'm not gonna be, that guy's a brilliant human being. Like he is a fantastically sophisticated mind. He's just pretending to be a bumpkin. I'm not even kidding. He always has pretended to be a bumpkin to appeal to people.
This is BNN right now.
But that's true. My whole bit before was obviously a bit about like he's still a communist, but that is literally how John Kennedy works.
Bumpkin. Yeah. Well, good garbage person. My garbage person of the week. I feel a little bit bad because I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't, but I do feel a little bit bad. I'm curious what you think, Brett. I was a big fan of the show Squid Game. Apparently, most people were, including Chrissy Teigen. And Chrissy Teigen decided to do a fancy Squid Game themed party where she went in costume. Actually, if you've seen the show, you'll recognize this costume of Chrissy Teigen. And she had a bunch of people over, including some other celebrities. Shay Mitchell was there. They had this like thing, like, you know, iconography from the show of the ball of money, and they're all in costume, and they had the guards were functioning as servants. And at one point, something like that happens in the show, so it makes me really uncomfortable. They did games, and yeah, they got like the big prize for the party was a flight to Napa Valley and dinner for two at French Laundry. Now, no word yet on whether she's watched the show. I imagine she has, but there's some fairly obvious lessons in Squid Game, and a bunch of really rich people cosplaying as participants in a death match for desperate debtors. Seems wrong in some way. Am I a bad person, Brett? What do you think about this? I honestly don't know where you'll come down on this.
This is full on District 1 stuff, like Hunger Games District 1. And I know that like it's all the same themes, Squid Game and Hunger Games. But like for rich people to cosplay as poor people, I don't care about this. And I don't think you should care. And I don't think other people should care. And that caveat when people are like, you guys are, oh, and now they're eating their own, they're canceling Chrissy Teigen. First of all, I did it first. I never got her. She doesn't get the stuff that she's talking about. There's no reason for her to be a celebrity aside from the potato smashy that John once made from her cookbook. And it is delicious, whatever. Don't think she like invented that recipe, but like this, she literally had people come over to her house and gave presents away to like rich people, funding rich people's trips to the French Laundry, which like she drops her own name to get a table there, by the way. Like you and I, good luck. I'll go while you're talking about it. I'll look up, I'll get reservations at the French Laundry.
Oh my God, I'm imagining it's expensive. Yeah, look, if you're rich, I get it. You still want to live your life. And I get that like carefully analyzing everything you do or understanding how much of popular culture, a lot of which is not written at least by rich people, even if it's produced by rich people, might be critical of you in a lot of ways, might be exhausting to constantly be analyzing yourself in that way. And look, I think she's been clever on Twitter. I think her smashies and other recipes are delicious. But this was just like, I don't know is there a show that they could more not get the message up? Or maybe they get it and they just don't care. I don't know. But this is like the most rich person confronting show on TV of the past couple of years. And it just right over the heads. I don't get it.
There is, so when you go on the French Laundry website where it's $350 per person add-on, I don't even know what that means, but it's $350 per person plus add-ons, so that's it. And you can only book through the end of December, so for the next 2 months, not a single table is available.
Yeah, well, they were all taken by friends of Chrissy Teigen. Anyway, so thank you for the research. That's my garbage person. I feel a little bit bad about it. Like she's not, trying to stop you from getting like cheaper prescription drugs like some people, but it's still just maddening. But anyway, we also asked you, as we do every week, for your garbage person of the week. And so 33,000 of you voted on our poll. And coming in at number 5 with 2% of the vote is Chris Christie for bombarding the airwaves with his nonsense. A tie at number 4 and 3 with 8% of the vote, you have attorney Kevin Go for trying to kick black pastors out of court. Also Marjorie Taylor Greene for her price of blood comments, which were abhorrent. Also Brett Erlich for not liking the Matrix anymore. Coming in at number 2 is Michael Flynn with 19% of the vote for declaring the US needs one religion. Guess which one? And at number 1 with 63% of the vote, you have Judge Schroeder. This, I think the audience is gonna be happy to see, for acting as Rittenhouse's defense attorney and just, making the whole thing even worse. It was always gonna be bad, but it was worse because of him. That is your community garbage person of the week. Thank you to the 33,000 of you who voted in the poll. And Brett Erlich, thank you most of all to you. Though the Matrix might not hold up, you do.
Thank you. And thank you for admitting it doesn't hold up, and Skip slacked me during the show to say he agreed with me.
Oh my God, I'm surrounded by people with terrible taste. Anyway, have a good one. I'll talk to you a little bit later on.
All right, bye.
Goodbye. And for all of you watching at home, I'm gonna be leading the first hour of the Young Turks with Cenk Uygur and Morgan Harper. And then they're gonna have Double Jackson second hour. It's gonna be a lot of fun. You're not gonna wanna miss it. Before that, of course, you have Indisputable. Wazi Lambri is gonna be joining Rashad Ritchie, which is super exciting. There's lots to look forward to. But until then, stay safe out there. Stay sane out there. We'll see you soon.